Sukoya, and welcome to Star Wars 101. We started out talking about the concrete stuff, the galaxy, what's in it, how it works. So today I figure we go all the way in the other direction by talking about the Force. See, to me, the Force is what really takes Star Wars to another level. Because so much of Star Wars is about this gritty realism with real politics and real military tactics and like thought out technology and culture. But the Force is like weird and mystical and out there and makes kind of no sense. So what do we know about the Force? Well, in episode 4, Obi-Wan Kenobi explains that the Force binds us and penetrates us. It's kinky that way. I find the best way to think about the Force is to think about it like you would gravity. It's literally a force. It's all around everything, permeating the fabric of space throughout the Star Wars galaxy. It's always there. Alright? So the Force, essentially, is generated by and sustains life. All living beings are in some way in touch with the Force. It affects all of them, from plants to bacteria to Jedi. Everything has some connection with the connection. What are we speaking English now? Come on. It's like it's 2:42 in the morning. I don't know why I'm doing this now, but whatever. You people want content. So basically, the Force is everywhere that life is. All living beings are sort of bound together by being bound to the Force. It's like being hooked into the system, right? And the Force can be stronger in certain areas than others. Like in areas where there's more life, there's generally more Force. Force can also be stronger in areas where Force users have been working the Force and molding it and kind of concentrating it in an area. Now the reverse is also true. If a whole lot of beings die at once, this can create a disturbance in the Force. And that area, if like that event is large enough, can remain weak in the Force for centuries. So the Force tends to grant beings in touch with it, and yes, I said beings, not sentients are not the only ones who can use the Force. There are several, like animal species that are in tune with the Force. So how do you use the Force? Well, the short answer is midichlorians. So midichlorians are kind of a controversial subject in the Star Wars universe because a lot of people hate them and consider them to be one of George Lucas's biggest flops. But they're canon, they're there, and honestly I don't mind them much. Essentially, midichlorians are tiny little organelles in the cells of every living organism in the Star Wars universe. They're like, the one thing that makes Star Wars humans separate from, like, us humans. Midichlorians. Midichlorians, little organelles, those are the things in the cell that, do things like your ribosomes and your nuclei and such. And they commune with the Force. Basically, more midichlorians, the more in touch with the Force you can be. Though, this is very important. You do not have to be Force sensitive or strong in the Force to, get benefits from the Force. One of the things I really liked from the movie Rogue One is it showed us this guy who really wasn't that strong in the Force, but still believed in Force teachings and allowed that to guide him and shape him. And even though, you never see him doing Force pushes or really using the Force in any way, he benefits from the Force. So, what does the Force allow one to do? Well, the most obvious thing is that field. The Force connects all living beings. So Force sensitives can use the Force to sense other living beings and sense when they die. Another thing that the Force sensitives can usually do is the Force basically Now the Force is also in the habit of granting visions. Now, some Force sensitives do, dream visions of what's going to happen. But other times, it could be as simple as, slight, what's going to happen in the future. And this basically translates into spidey senses and means that Force sensitives usually have really hyper reflexes. That's how Jedi can, bat lasers out of the sky. It's because, they can see them coming like a split second before and react to them. Force can also strengthen your body. It can let you run faster, jump higher, all that stuff. Punch through super battle droids, etc. You can use it to move things, lift things, all kinds of things. But that's pretty domestic. The Force really can allow for some weird stuff. Hello and welcome to a new segment I like to call Look at a Cute Baby Animal While I Fill in a Segment that I did film when I filmed. Okay, so obviously the Force can be used for like psychic stuff. You can, manipulate weak people's minds and, such, because we're all plugged into the Force field, so you can reach out to other people's minds with the Force. Now, this can be used to persuade or scrub memories. The Jedi generally use it in those ways, just kind of benignly, get their way without hurting people. The Sith are more in the, tear into someone's brain or, dig into their consciousness. However, you can also use the Force to influence people's emotions or even sense them. And there are people who specialize in that, called empaths. And you can use that to help them get over, mental trauma and such. And, just all kinds of good things. And anyway, that's a thing I forgot to say in the video. Okay, back to your regularly scheduled programming. There are a lot of different groups that use the Force. And a lot of them use it in different ways. Next episode, we'll be getting into the Jedi and because, they're kind of the most important Force sensitives, and explaining how they see the Force. But what's important to know right now is that there is no correct way to see the Force. Because all of these different groups view the Force in a certain way, and they commune with it in a certain way. And how they view the Force, and what it is and what it lets them do, basically shapes the abilities that they use. And people who view the Force, say, in a more material way, use it to strengthen their bodies and kill people and just make shields and such tactile stuff. But people who are more spiritual and out there, and some of the guru stuff that happens in the series, things like visions or creating illusions, messing with people's minds, even bending energy to their will. Because that's what the Force is. Remember, it's energy. It's the energy force that both is generated by every living being and powers every living being. Living beings and the Force are in this reciprocal relationship, alright, between them and the Force. That's the best way you can think about it. The last note I want to leave on you. So the Force is infinite, but no one can draw on it infinitely. One's ability to draw on the Force is generally determined by how strong they are in the Force, but also how well trained they are, what their stamina is. It's like building a muscle. You learn to run a marathon. You lift rocks and you lift rocks, and maybe one day you can lift a big rock. That's the way the Force works. And the thing about that training is it's not so much the muscle itself of the Force, it's also in training your mind. In episode 5, during Luke's training with Yoda, Luke's been lifting rocks and jumping over things, and he's starting to get the hang of this, and Yoda's just like, alright, you're doing good, kid. Lift that starship. Luke's like, what? The spaceship, you came up in here. You flew and you landed in that bog. Lift it. Luke's like, I can't do that, it's too big. I just been lifting rocks. And Yoda proceeds to lift it out of the bog, saying size matters not. Now Luke replies after he does it, he says, I can't believe it. And Yoda says, that is why you fail. Believe in the Force, and you can draw on it all you want. That is the faith, the spiritual part of Star Wars. And that is what it makes it unique from so many sci-fi and fantasy series. That spiritual, almost quasi-religious aspect to it. So the thing I want to leave you with today, the one last note about the Force, is that the Force is hard to define. Obviously, I've been trying a lot of different ways to get y'all to understand it. But the weird thing about the Force is, the Force means a lot of different things to a lot of different people in the universe. there's whole groups and cults and religions and orders, like the Jedi and the Sith, that all draw on the Force in different ways. And they all think that everybody else's, way of thinking about the Force is flawed. But remember, they may talk about the light side of the Force or the dark side of the Force or, their own philosophy or religion. But remember, the Force is just the Force. It is sentient beings which impose their own ideas onto the Force of the light or the dark. The Force itself, it's just there. Just being a force in people's lives. Alright, that's enough for this one. I need to go to sleep and go to work. And I have to, fix a phone. And there's so many things happening these days. There's a Twitter. There's a Gmail. Questions in the comments down there. How y'all doing? Y'all isn't it a wonderful time to be alive? Just wonderful. I'm not going insane at all. I probably no. It's too early in the timeline for that. Oh, snow. I'd better cut before this gets more out of hand. Cut.